So today we are going to see about the Salesforce integration pattern. So we are going to see the use cases and the solution. So the thoughts, it gives eye-opening to all types of integrations. What are the ways that we can do the integration? And it makes you think about the past integration that you did and compare with this pattern, whether you did it the right way or not. It gives that kind of insights. It makes your decision-making ability in choosing right integration pattern. So you will be able to select the right integration pattern after this. So we are going to see about all of these integration patterns. So first, call out, call in. Maybe you can add a Salesforce call out, Salesforce call in. What is Salesforce call out and what is Salesforce call in? So call out means we are making the call out from Salesforce to some other system. Call in means other system is calling Salesforce and we are displaying the data. Like if you are exposing the Apex REST API that comes under the call in. So other system calls the Salesforce Apex REST API and get the data. So first pattern we are going to see about the remote process invocation. So remote process means you just think API. It's one of the API that we are going to call. So it's request and reply pattern. So request and reply means we are requesting for some data or we are posting some data to third party and it is giving the reply immediately. Like if we create the case from Salesforce to some other system, like they are using ServiceNow and we are creating the case from Salesforce to ServiceNow. And as soon as case is created, it replaces the case number from the ServiceNow. So that we are requesting from the Salesforce and we are getting the reply immediately. That comes under request and reply. So we are going to see about on use case. So you use Salesforce to track leads, manage the pipelines, create the opportunities and capture the order details that converts lead to customer. But the Salesforce system doesn't contain or process orders. After the order details are captured in Salesforce, the order is created in the remote system, which manages the order to conclusion. So they are using the Salesforce for lead and pipeline, but for order, they are using the different system, order management system. But the details to create the order, they are getting from the Salesforce. Okay, so when we go with this request and reply pattern, Salesforce will call the remote system to create the order because we have the order information in Salesforce, but it doesn't have the capability to process the order. So we call the remote system to create the order and then wait for the successful completion. Means third party process that request from Salesforce and after it's successful, the remote system or third party synchronously replies with the order status and order number. So we make the call out to the order management system and it process that and create the order in the order management system and after that say it replies to the Salesforce. So Salesforce is waiting till the time the transaction is live. Okay, so as part of the same transaction, Salesforce updates the order number and the status internally. Means it gets the order number and the status from the remote system and it updates the Salesforce internally. The order number is used as foreign key for the subsequent updates to the remote system. So to identify any order updates, like after order is created in the remote system, if there is any changes happened, that is tracked using the foreign key. So here, if we see, we are calling the third party remote system for creating the order and it creates immediately, then it replaces the orders number and the order status. So this is the Lightning Web Component or Visualforce page from the Salesforce side, and this is the Apex controller. So in the Lightning component, maybe we can have one record called order record. Inside the order record, we may have one button called process order. So when we click the process order button, what it does, it calls the Apex class, and Apex class makes the web service call to the remote system. Remote system create the order in that system and it gives the response, and that response is stored in the Salesforce. And also it is visible in the Salesforce UI. So why we call it as request and reply? Salesforce is requesting remote system to create the order and it is waiting to get the request response. It's not like it's left with that. The transaction is still alive till we get to the order status and the number. Then we store the data in Salesforce and show it in the UI. That's why it's called the request and reply. And if any failure occurred, we get to know in the transaction only, like order is failed, remote remote system will respond, the order is failed. So this is the best solution that we can do it for this use case, request and reply use case. So we will see the other solutions also that we might have used when we have a similar requirement. So the first solution is would be using the enhanced external services invokes the REST API called declarative approach. So you guys explore on this. There is Salesforce feature called enhanced external service. If we can use that service to make the call out, it's a declarative approach. We can go with that. And the second best approach is to have the lightning component or page initiates the synchronous Apex SOAP or REST call out to the third party system. And another one way is we can have the visual force page. So this three is the best solution. And the suboptimal solution is calling from the trigger. So for the request and reply, what Salesforce suggests, we should not call from the trigger, because if we are calling from the trigger, we need to call from the asynchronous methods, and then we need to do the remote system invocations. And the next solution is the using the batch jobs, and then making the call out. So first, during this request and reply pattern use cases, you need to see if you can implement using the external services or initiating through the lightning component. That should be the first thing. If it is not suitable for your use case, then you can go with the calling the Apex from the trigger. So what I feel most of the time we go with this approach, synchronous trigger. Like even though we have the button, that button will update the Salesforce record, then it will make the call out to the third party system. So let's avoid that approach. Let's go with this approach. This is the best solution. So in this way, even unwanted data updates in the system won't make the API call to other systems. Also, from the trigger context, we can't call the API directly. We need to use the asynchronous methods. So the next pattern is same remote process invocation, fire and forget. So same use case, when order is created in Salesforce, we need to create the order in the remote system. But here we are firing it and we are forgetting it. Means we are sending the order information to the remote system, but we will not wait to get the order number and the status, because there is no requirement to store that information in Salesforce. Okay, if we have that kind of requirement, we can go with the fire and forget pattern. So for fire and forget pattern, best solution is using the platform event. So here it's mentioned process builder. We can create the platform event either from the process builder or flow. So from here, we create the platform event, and it is going to the platform event bus, and remote system listens to this platform event, and that system execute that. We are just sending the order data to remote system. We are not getting any response back. That's why it's called firing and forgetting. We are firing the event and we forget what we get it as response. So this pattern we can use when there is scenario. We just need to send the information. That's it. But we don't need to get any response back, and we don't need to update in the Salesforce record that response. During that scenario, we can go with this fire and forget pattern. As I mentioned, for fire and forget, best solution would be process-driven platform event. And the good solution would be customized driven platform event. So platform event we can create using flow process builder as well, and also we can create from Apex class. Using Apex class, we need to keep it in the second option. And outbound message also we can use it, but this and all not good to go for now. And the suboptimal solution means again going with the standard way of making the call out from lightning component or from the trigger. So these are more customization is needed. So if we don't want to get the response and store it in the Salesforce record, let's not go with these solutions and all. Let's go with platform event. So we will go with the next pattern. So the next thing is batch data synchronization. So the use case is extract and transform the accounts, contacts, opportunities from the current CRM system and load the data into Salesforce. So they are using the different system now. They want to migrate from that system to Salesforce system. After that, that is one use case. Second, extract, transform, and load customer billing data into Salesforce from remote system on a weekly basis. So the first use case is one-time work. From the other CRM, they are migrating to Salesforce. It's done one time. So the second is every week they need to migrate the data from the billing system to Salesforce. So this both comes under the import. So data is coming from other system to Salesforce, but it's very big bulk data. So next, extract customer activity information from the Salesforce and import it into an on-premises data warehouse on a weekly basis. So this is export. So we need to export the customer activity information from the Salesforce and we need to upload into data warehouse. So there are three requirements. First two are import based, last one is export based, but everything is depends on the batch data. It's not single data. It's all based on the batch data. So this is one type of pattern, batch data synchronization. Let's see what solution is good for this pattern integration. So the first thing is Salesforce to others. So means moving the batch data from the Salesforce system to other system. So the best approach, we can use the change data capture event. So like how we have the platform event, we have the change data capture event. So this event, it will be created whenever there is some update, insert, delete to the data, and third party or remote system can subscribe to this data and it can be synchronized. So this is the best solution. Our next solution will be using the third party ETL tool. So since the data is very bulk, we can use the third party ETL tool. We can also use the App Exchange or Informatica Cloud or MuleSoft. So all those things we can use for the batch data synchronization. So optimal process. So this is the best and a good. Then optimal process is using the remote process invocation. Remote process invocation means it can be either request and reply or fire and forget. But again, that is difficult to write the code and send this lot of data weekly basis. So it's not good approach. It's going to take lot of system resources and limits may get exceeded. So it's not good way to go with the remote process invocation. Always the best way would be either to use the change data capture or using the ETL tool. I think most of the time we perform this through data loader. Like first use case, we use data loader. We extract the data from the third party system and we use the data loader to upload it in the Salesforce. For second also. For export, mostly it's a ETL tool only. If we need to send weekly basis thousands of data, ETL tool will be the best approach. But still, there are some considerations are there. Client might not be able to purchase the ETL tool by paying the cost. So that time we need to go with the suboptimal solution called remote process invocation. But during the remote process invocation, we need to get a third party batch API details. If third party is not having the batch API details, then it's very difficult for Salesforce to send a lot of data to remote system. Same, if other system needs to send the data to Salesforce, we can provide our batch API endpoint. To that endpoint, they can send the data. So first approach, we need to see whether we can use the change data capture event or we can go with the ETL tool. If that is not possible, it's direct integration. That's what suboptimal solution. Okay, fine. So you guys can explore on it. You need to have the clear view on the platform event, change data capture event, Salesforce bulk API capabilities, all those things. Okay, so the next use case is remote calling. So you use Salesforce to track leads, manage the pipeline, create the opportunities, and capture order details that converts the lead to customer. But Salesforce is not the system that contains or processes the orders. Orders are managed by an external system. The remote system needs to update the order status in Salesforce as the order passes through its processing stages. So it's extension of the use case that we already saw. Before, we made the call out to the remote system and remote system created the order. But whenever the order status is updated in the remote system, it needs to inform Salesforce that order is updated. So Salesforce can update the data. Okay, so it's call in from the remote system. Call is coming to Salesforce. That is call in. Okay. So let's see what is the best approach to achieve this integration use case. So the best solution would be everyone knows calling the standard Salesforce REST API or SOAP API. So we can just provide the Salesforce standard REST API endpoint to the remote system and the remote system can call this API and update it. We just need to create the connected app and provide the standard REST API details. So remote system authenticate with the Salesforce After that, remote system do the post request and Salesforce execute the actions. So if that is bulk, like if third party system or remote system needs to send the data in the bulk, that time we can provide our bulk API details, so they can call that API. And the suboptimal solution would be exposing the custom REST services. If we use the Apex REST services, we can go with that also. So for remote calling, most of the time, standard approach would be fine only. We don't need to go with the custom, but in some use cases, we need to go with the custom. We need to expose through Apex REST services. So we still needed the proper OAuth authentication, but Salesforce standard REST API didn't work for that use case. So you went with the Apex REST services. So there are some scenarios that we can't use the standard REST API. So in those cases, we can go with the Apex REST services. For example, when we get to the create a case request, first we need to check whether account is there. First create the account, then create the contact. Then we need to create the case. After create the case, we need to create some other object also. Like that, in the single API call, if we need to perform the multiple operations that is not supported by the standard REST API, then we can go with the Apex REST API. So whenever you get the requirement, you can assess first if it can be done by Apex REST API. If it is not possible, then we can go with the Apex REST services. Okay, fine. So next UI update based on the data changes. So you use Salesforce to manage the customer cases. A customer service representative is on the phone with the customer working on the case. The customer makes the payment and the customer service representative needs to see real-time updates in Salesforce from the payment processing application, indicating that the customer has successfully paid the order outstanding amount. So the use case is customer service representative is using mobile phone and he is at the customer location. So customer is making the payment using some other option. It can be UPI or something. But as soon as customer made the payment, it needs to be visible in the customer service representative phone without making any refresh. Okay, so this is the use case. So basically what will happen from the payment system update will go to Salesforce. Then Salesforce needs to update the UI immediately without refreshing the page. So the recommended solution to this integration problem is use the Salesforce streaming API and we can use the push topic. So whenever there is some data changes, a push topic event will get published. But the thing is currently Salesforce is not recommending to use the push topic. So you guys can proceed with the platform event only and the Lightning component can subscribe to the platform event and it can update the UI based on that. So in the Lightning component, if we need to immediately put the changes that is updated in the database, we can trigger the platform event. When Salesforce itself subscribes to the platform event, it doesn't comes under the platform event limits. So platform event, we have some limits. How many subscription can be done in last 24 hours? When Lightning component itself subscribes to the platform event, then it's not affected. So actually Salesforce doesn't update the some documents that they are not continuing to enhance the push topic. They will continue to enhance the platform event only. So next, data virtualization. So the use case is you use Salesforce to track leads, manage your pipeline, create opportunity and capture order details that converts the leads to the customer. However, Salesforce is not the system that contains process the order, same story. Orders are managed by an external system, same story. But the sales rep want to view and update real-time order information in Salesforce without having to learn or use the external system. So the thing is, they don't want to go to the external system like a sales rep is using the Salesforce. From the Salesforce only, they need to see the external system order and they need to update that also. So the one way is remote calling, like external system can send the stage, whenever stage is updated, it can send the information to Salesforce and sales rep can update the order in the Salesforce that again can make the call out to say the external system. So here two call out is coming into picture and there can be some delay. Okay, if we go with the remote calling and request and reply approach, if we go with that, we need to make the two API calls and there can be some delay, but they want to view and update in the real time. So let's see what is the best approach. So the best approach is using the Salesforce connector. So there is Salesforce Connect feature in the Salesforce. So what it will do, we can just visualize the external data in the Salesforce and we can do the update as well. It will not store the data in Salesforce. We are just visualizing external data inside the Salesforce. That's it. And the suboptimal solution would be request and reply. That's what we are using so far, mostly. So you guys explore on this option also. Salesforce Connect, external object, all those topics you can explore. So we will go with this approach when there is a case. We don't want to store the third-party data in Salesforce, but we need to view the third-party data in Salesforce. So in those time, we will go with this Salesforce Connect approach only and external object. So external object means the data is not stored in Salesforce. We are just showing the remote system data inside the Salesforce. When you are doing the implementation for any feature, you need to make sure first you read the limitation document and the consideration document. So before reading these two documents, don't proceed with the implementation. So if you are working on the flow, you need to know what are the limitations and the considerations of the flow. Same for Apex corner limit, integration, LWC component. So all these limits asynchronous. So all these limits you need to be very well aware. Otherwise, now you will be doing the rework most of the time. If you know the limits and the consideration, you will not do the rework. You well aware already, and you can take the right approach and go in the right direction. Thank you, everyone.